June 15, 1940, Fort Benning, Georgia. The dusty test track stretched endlessly under the scorching summer sun as Major Robert G. Howie climbed behind the wheel of a peculiar-looking vehicle that would change warfare forever. The machine weighed barely 2,160 pounds, stood just 36 inches tall, and possessed no doors, no roof, and certainly no creature comforts that peacetime drivers expected. Yet this stripped-down contraption would soon prove more valuable than tank sting 50 times as much. The mathematics of battlefield mobility were being written in four-wheel drive and steel, revealing capabilities that would transform not just military operations but the entire concept of what civilian vehicles could accomplish. What began as a desperate wartime procurement would evolve into the foundation of every sport utility vehicle rolling off assembly lines 8 decades later. The transformation had begun on June 27, 1940, when the United States Army issued one of the most challenging procurement specifications in military history. They wanted a lightweight reconnaissance vehicle capable of carrying 3 soldiers plus equipment across terrain that would stop conventional automobiles dead. The specifications seemed contradictory, impossible. The vehicle must weigh less than 1,300 pounds empty, climb a 60% grade, ford water 18 inches deep, and maintain highway speeds on paved roads. Most critically, it needed four-wheel drive capability that had never been successfully mass-produced in America. Among those studying the Army's requirements was Carl Probant's automotivist, a Friel engineer whose career had spanned luxury car design and industrial vehicle development. He had worked for Pierce Arrow, Auburn, and Studebaker, companies that understood precision engineering but had never attempted anything as radical as the Army demanded. The procurement notice had reached his desk through contacts at Willys Overland Motors, a struggling Toledo company desperate for government contracts that might save them from bankruptcy. Bantam Car Company received the specifications first, their small size making them hungry enough to attempt what larger manufacturers considered impossible. The company had been building tiny economy cars since 1936, vehicles that most Americans dismissed as serious as toys rather transportation. Yet their experience with lightweight construction would prove crucial in meeting the Army's weight restrictions. The engineering challenges seemed insurmountable to conventional automotive thinking. Four-wheel drive systems in 1940 were massive, heavy assemblies used primarily in trucks and specialized industrial equipment. The transfer cases, differentials, and drive shafts required for all-wheel traction typically added 800 to 1,000 pounds to vehicle weight. Creating a four-wheel drive system light enough to meet Army specifications, while robust enough for military service, demanded completely new approaches to mechanical engineering. Carl Probst accepted the challenge on July 17, 1940, with Bantam promising the Army they would deliver a prototype within 49 days. The timeline was insane by automotive industry standards. Most new vehicle development required 18 to 24 months from concept to prototype. Probst had 7 weeks to design a completely new type of vehicle using technologies that barely existed. Working 18-hour days in a cramped engineering office in Butler, Pennsylvania, Probst sketched designs that violated every assumption about automotive construction. Instead of a separate frame and body like conventional cars, he conceived a unified structure where the body panels themselves provided structural strength. The engine would be mounted as far forward as possible to improve weight distribution over the front axle. The transmission and transfer case would be combined into a single compact unit. Most radically, Probst eliminated everything non-essential. No doors meant weight savings and easier entry and exit in combat conditions. No roof reduced manufacturing complexity and allowed unlimited headroom for radio antennas or mounted weapons. No side windows eliminated glass weight and vulnerability to small arms fire. What emerged from his drafting table was transportation reduced to its absolute essence: 4 wheels, an engine, seats, and steering. The prototype that rolled out of Bantam's factory on September 23, 1940, shocked everyone who saw it. The vehicle looked like a child's toy enlarged to adult size, a mechanical go-kart with oversized tires and a purposeful stance that suggested capability far exceeding its diminutive dimensions. Army test drivers approached it with skepticism bordering on amusement. This tiny machine was supposed to replace horses in cavalry reconnaissance units. The first test drive at Camp Holabird, Maryland, transformed skepticism into amazement. The little vehicle climbed hills that stopped conventional Army trucks, It forded streams, traversed mud that would bog down much larger machines, and maintained surprising stability at highway speeds despite its short wheelbase and high center of gravity. The four-wheel drive system distributed power so effectively that the vehicle seemed to float over terrain that would challenge a mule. Colonel Arthur W. S. Harrington, the Army's leading expert on military vehicles, conducted the official evaluation with growing excitement. His report to the Quartermaster General captured the revolutionary nature of what Bantam had achieved. This vehicle represents a fundamental advance in military transportation. Its ability to traverse difficult terrain exceeds that of any wheeled vehicle we have tested. The four-wheel drive system provides traction characteristics previously available only in tracked vehicles, combined with speed and fuel efficiency that tracked vehicles cannot match. But the Army's enthusiasm came with a devastating caveat. Bantam Car Company lacked the manufacturing capacity to produce vehicles in the quantities the military required. If war came, the Army would need thousands of these machines, not dozens. Bantam's small factory in Butler could perhaps build 100 vehicles monthly. The Army needed suppliers capable of producing 1,000 vehicles monthly or more. The solution that emerged would prove as transformative as the vehicle itself. Rather than award exclusive production rights to Bantam, the Army decided to share the design with larger manufacturers capable of mass production. Ford Motor Company and Willys Overland Motors received complete specifications and were invited to develop their own versions of the reconnaissance vehicle. The decision created immediate controversy and lasting legal battles. Bantam had invested everything in developing the prototype, only to watch competitors receive the fruits of their engineering work. Yet the Army's logic was undeniable. National defense required production capacity that only major manufacturers possessed. The perfect vehicle that couldn't be built in adequate quantities was useless. Ford's interpretation of the design emerged in November 1940 as the Model GP, a more refined version that incorporated Ford's manufacturing expertise and quality control standards. The Ford version featured improved metallurgy, better electrical systems, and manufacturing tolerances that promised greater reliability and service. Henry Ford himself test-drove the prototype, declaring it exactly the type of simple, functional vehicle that mass production could perfect. Willys Overland took a different approach, focusing on power and durability rather than refinement. Their version featured a larger, more powerful engine that provided performance advantages at the cost of slightly increased weight and fuel consumption. The Willys Go Devil engine produced 60 horsepower compared to 45 horsepower in the Bantam design, a 33% increase in power that translated to dramatically improved capability in difficult terrain. The competitive evaluation that followed through winter and spring 1941 would determine not just which company received the production contract, but which engineering philosophy would shape the vehicle's future development. Army test drivers subjected all three designs to punishing evaluations that simulated combat conditions, desert operations, Arctic service, and amphibious warfare scenarios. Each manufacturer brought distinct advantages to the competition. Bantam offered the original design and lightest weight. Ford provided manufacturing expertise and quality control systems that promised reliable production. Willys contributed superior power and the most robust construction. The Army faced a decision that would influence military operations for decades to come. What none of them realized was that they were creating more than a military vehicle. The engineering solutions developed for Army reconnaissance requirements would eventually revolutionize civilian transportation, spawning an entire category of vehicles that combined car-like comfort with truck-like capability. The final evaluation results, announced on July 15, 1941, reflected the complex realities of wartime procurement. Willys Overland received the primary production contract based on their superior engine performance and robust construction, but Ford was awarded a secondary contract to ensure adequate production capacity. Bantam, despite creating the original design, received only a small contract for specialized variants. The decision would prove prescient as global events accelerated beyond anyone's expectations. The attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, transformed the little reconnaissance vehicle from interesting experiment to desperate necessity. Within hours of the Japanese strike, Army procurement officers were placing orders that dwarfed previous military vehicle contracts. The initial request for 16,000 units suddenly expanded to 60,000, then 150,000, then numbers that seemed impossible to achieve. The production challenge that emerged would test American industrial capacity in ways no one anticipated. Willys Overland's Toledo factory had never attempted mass production on the scale the military demanded. The company's pre-war peak production had reached perhaps 100 vehicles daily. The Army now required 1,000 vehicles daily by summer 1942, a tenfold increase that necessitated complete transformation of manufacturing methods. The solution came through partnerships that redefined automotive production. Ford's River Rouge complex, the most advanced manufacturing facility in the world, began producing Willys designs under license. Smaller suppliers across the Midwest converted from civilian products to military components. The Kelsey Hayes Wheel Company shifted from automobile wheels to specialized four-wheel drive components. The Spicer Manufacturing Corporation expanded differential production by 500%. By spring 1942, the vehicle that would soon be universally known as the Jeep was rolling off production lines in quantities that amazed even its creators. The name itself emerged from military slang, possibly derived from the designation GP for general purpose, though soldiers claimed it came from Eugene the Jeep, a Popeye cartoon character capable of going anywhere and doing anything impossible. The first combat deployments revealed capabilities that exceeded every expectation. In North Africa, British forces discovered that Jeeps could traverse desert terrain that stopped much larger vehicles. The low ground pressure created by wide tires and light weight allowed operation in sand that bogged down conventional trucks. More importantly, the vehicle's simplicity meant repairs could be accomplished with basic tools under combat conditions. Lieutenant Colonel David Stirling of the British Special Air Service became the Jeep's most ardent military advocate after discovering its potential for deep desert reconnaissance. His unit mounted machine guns on Jeep chassis, creating mobile firing platforms that could strike German positions and disappear before enemy forces could respond. The raids demonstrated tactical possibilities that traditional military vehicles couldn't achieve. The Pacific Theater proved even more challenging for conventional vehicles, but the Jeep thrived in conditions that defeated everything else. The combination of four-wheel drive traction, water-fording capability, and compact dimensions made it ideal for island warfare where roads barely existed and terrain varied from beach sand to jungle mud to volcanic rock. Marines discovered they could drive vehicles that would stop tracking Jeeps through vegetation. The engineering lessons learned in combat enhanced that to continuous improvements, both military effectiveness and long-term civilian potential. The original 2,160-pound weight gradually increased to 2,453 pounds as armor protection, better electrical systems, and improved mechanical components were added. The changes reflected battlefield experience that revealed where additional strength was needed. The four-wheel drive system underwent particularly significant refinement as combat experience identified weaknesses and opportunities. The original part-time system required manual engagement of front-wheel drive, but combat conditions often demanded instant traction without time for driver intervention. Engineers developed improved transfer cases that could engage four-wheel drive more quickly and reliably. The transmission system evolved from a 3-speed manual to more sophisticated configurations that provided better performance across varied terrain. The addition of lower gear ratios improved climbing ability on steep grades, while overdrive options enhanced highway efficiency during long-distance movements. These mechanical improvements would prove crucial when civilian applications demanded similar versatility. By 1943, Jeep production reached levels that transformed the American automotive industry's understanding of what mass production could achieve. The combined output of Willys Overland and Ford factories exceeded 1,500 vehicles daily, a rate that placed Jeep production among the highest volume military contracts in American history. The achievement demonstrated industrial capabilities that would influence post-war civilian vehicle development. The global distribution of Jeeps through Lend-Lease programs introduced the vehicle to military forces worldwide, creating international awareness of American automotive engineering. British, Soviet, Canadian, and Free French forces all operated Jeeps extensively, gaining experience with four-wheel drive technology that European manufacturers had never successfully commercialized. The exposure would influence post-war civilian vehicle development across multiple continents. Soviet forces proved particularly enthusiastic about Jeep capabilities in winter conditions where traction was critical. The vehicle's performance in Russian snow and ice demonstrated four-wheel drive advantages that Soviet engineers had struggled to achieve with their. The Experience own designs influenced post-war Soviet vehicle development and created lasting appreciation for American automotive engineering approaches. The medical evacuation role revealed another dimension of Jeep versatility that would influence civilian applications. The vehicle's smooth ride characteristics, despite its Spartan appointments, made it suitable for transporting wounded personnel across rough terrain where ambulances couldn't operate. Special stretcher mounting systems converted Jeeps into field ambulances, capable of reaching casualties in locations inaccessible to conventional medical vehicles. By 1944, as Allied forces prepared for the invasion of Europe, Jeep production had reached such levels that the vehicle became standard equipment throughout American and Allied forces. The D-Day landings included over 2,000 Jeeps in the first wave alone, more four-wheel drive vehicles than had existed in the entire world just 5 years earlier. The concentration of capability represented a revolution in military mobility that would reshape post-war expectations about what civilian vehicles should accomplish. The engineering innovations developed under wartime pressure were creating technological foundations that would transform civilian transportation in ways no one yet imagined. The mass production techniques, metallurgical advances, and mechanical solutions developed for military Jeeps contained the seeds of an automotive revolution that would eventually put four-wheel drive capability in suburban driveways across America. The transformation from military necessity to civilian revolution began in unexpected places during the war's final years. Agricultural communities across America's heartland discovered that surplus military Jeeps, available through government disposal programs, could accomplish farm work that traditional equipment couldn't handle. The vehicle's ability to traverse muddy fields, ford irrigation ditches, and climb steep hillsides made it invaluable for ranchers managing livestock across difficult terrain. What farmers initially purchased as cheap utility vehicles revealed capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions about what civilian transportation could achieve. Willis Brooks, a cattle rancher operating 12,000 acres in Montana's Glacier County, acquired his first military surplus Jeep in September 1945 for $278 from a government disposal auction. His ranch foreman, skeptical about the vehicle's utility compared to proven workhorses, changed his opinion after a single day checking fence lines across terrain that would have required hours on horseback. Brooks recorded in his ranch ledger that the Jeep reduced routine maintenance tasks from full days to half days, while covering twice the territory with greater reliability. The ranching community's enthusiasm for Jeep capabilities spread through agricultural networks that operated independently of automotive marketing channels. Ranchers didn't care about styling or comfort features that influenced conventional automobile purchases. They valued functionality, durability, and the ability to reach locations where traditional vehicles failed. Word spread through county fairs, livestock auctions, and farming cooperatives that these military castoffs possessed capabilities no civilian vehicle offered. Willys Overland Motors, facing the challenge of converting from wartime military production to peacetime civilian markets, initially struggled to understand this agricultural enthusiasm. Company executives had assumed that post-war Jeep sales would depend primarily on novelty appeal and recreational applications. The serious commercial adoption by farming and ranching operations revealed market potential that automotive industry analysts had completely overlooked. The civilian Jeep, introduced in 1946 as the CJ-2A, incorporated lessons learned from agricultural users who had modified military surplus vehicles for their specific needs. The addition of a tailgate, improved electrical systems, and optional power takeoff capabilities reflected feedback from ranchers who had discovered the vehicle's potential for powering equipment through its drivetrain. These modifications transformed the Jeep from simple transportation into a mobile power source capable of operating machinery in remote locations. The engineering challenges of adapting military designs for civilian use revealed complexities that traditional automotive manufacturers had never encountered. Military vehicles prioritized functionality over comfort, durability over refinement, and capability over convenience. Civilian buyers wanted these same capabilities, but demanded improvements in ride quality, weather protection, and operational convenience that military specifications had ignored. The solution required fundamental reimagining of what civilian vehicles could be, rather than simple modification of existing designs. The CJ2A incorporated civilian amenities like painted body panel shading and optional canvas, improved SE tops while maintaining the mechanical capabilities that made military Jeeps so effective. The balance between utility and comfort created a new category of vehicle that combined passenger car conveniences with commercial vehicle capabilities. The recreational applications that emerged surprised even Willys Overland's marketing department. Returning veterans who had operated Jeeps in combat began using civilian versions for hunting, fishing, and camping expeditions that required access to remote locations. The vehicle's ability to carry equipment over terrain where conventional automobiles couldn't travel opened recreational possibilities that had previously required horseback or hiking expeditions. The mountain communities of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana became early adoption centers for recreational Jeep use. Local outfitters discovered that Jeeps could transport hunting parties to remote areas previously accessible only through expensive packhorse expeditions. The economics were compelling. A single Jeep could transport 4 hunters plus equipment to locations that would require multiple horses and guides using traditional methods. The sporting goods industry began developing specialized equipment designed for Jeep-based expeditions. Camping equipment manufacturers created gear optimized for vehicle-supported adventures rather than backpack portability. Fishing tackle companies developed systems for reaching remote streams and lakes that four-wheel drive access made available. The recreational vehicle industry was being born through practical applications that revealed previously impossible outdoor activities. From that dusty test track at Fort Benning to the suburban driveways of America, the Jeep's transformation reveals a profound truth about innovation. What began as desperate military necessity evolved into the foundation of an entire automotive category that now dominates American roads. Every SUV rolling off production lines today carries the genetic code of that stripped-down reconnaissance vehicle, proof that revolutionary capability often emerges from the simplest solutions to the most demanding problems.